What is up, everybody? It is JT Sports. I am back, you guys, with another video. I am continuing my NFL training camp series, bringing on guests from different NFL teams. Today, I have on Clutch City Entertainment. Man, what's going on, you guys?
Hey,
Doing
what's
good.
good? Oh, you could go for it.
Yeah, we're doing good, doing good. Excited to talk about Texans and everything.
So,
Yeah, we're excited. Oh, yeah, my bad.
so before we begin, let the people know where they can find your channel.
Yeah, so we have a channel Twitter as at Clutch City ENTX. We're also on Instagram too, and obviously we have our own YouTube channel, currently at 1,000 subscribers, and excited to continue to grow in the future.
Now, when you look at the Houston Texans, obviously this is a team that has lost a lot. You lost J.J. Watt, Deshaun Watson. It doesn't look like he's going to end up suiting up to play this year for Houston. So let's talk about this quarterback battle. So you got Tyrod Taylor, Davis Mills. Who do you guys think is going to end up winning the starting job, pending if Deshaun Watson holds firm and he doesn't play this year?
Yeah, so it's definitely looking like Tyrod Taylor is going to be our starter for the meantime. As we all know, Texans also drafted Davis Mills in the third round, and that was their first pick in the entire NFL draft. And a lot of Texans fans, including myself, did not see that coming. And so you should expect to see Davis Mills kind of get some playing time, maybe around middle of the season, around the bye week, something around those lines. We did also sign Jeff Driscoll. He's probably just going to be a third stringer for us, nothing too crazy. There is probably a good chance that Deshaun Watson stays on the roster by week one. But there are some rumors that there are talks of settling, but who knows at this point.
Yeah, at this point, I expect it to be Tyrod week one. But I'm going back to the Deshaun Watson thing. Yeah, he's probably going to be on the roster week one. And I do see a suspension coming at least for 6 weeks. So I believe it's going to be Tyrod for at least the first 6 weeks, maybe until like the midseason. Maybe Davis Mills comes in for like a game or two towards the middle of the season, like maybe week 8, week 9, somewhere around there. But then I do see a real possibility of Watson coming back to I don't know if it's like a big possibility, but I do see it being a chance there. They could come back and probably play at some point in the season. But yeah, it's obviously gonna be Tyrod Taylor for me come week one, and then hopefully we'll see Davis Mills. He seems like he has some traits, nothing too crazy, but I mean, he's a project quarterback, so it is what it is.
Now, when you look at the offensive line has been a big Achilles heel for the Houston Texans over the last couple of seasons. What are some positional battles that are going to be happening on that offensive line in training camp, or are the starters pretty much locked and set in stone?
Actually, this is probably one of the more exciting years for Texans offensive line battles. We really did a good job. Nick Cassero did a good job on kind of reloading that offensive line. He signed Lane Taylor, who was previously on the Green Bay Packers. We obviously, with the whole new coaching staff with David Culley, we got a pretty good O-line coach in James Campen. So that's a really nice get for us. And so we have Lane Taylor and Max Sharping, who is, I think he's going to his third year. And so they're going to probably be battling for that left guard spot. Center is probably set in stone, which is Justin Britt. And then right guard and right tackle is actually pretty interesting, because we also got Marcus Cannon in a trade with the Patriots. But it was kind of James Campen, our O-line coach, kind of hinted that Marcus Cannon is going to probably be a right tackle still. And currently we have Titus Howard at that spot, who was our rookie drafted about 2 years ago. So it's going to be interesting to see if Marcus Cannon is going to be a backup for us if he moves to a right guard spot, because a right guard spot could we did cut Zach Fulton, who was our previously starting right guard, so who knows if he'll play at that position. He did play all over that offensive line, but we'll see about that though.
Yeah, I believe the same thing. On the left side of the line, I believe it's pretty much solidified. Laramie Tunsil, obviously a top 5 in my opinion left tackle in the NFL. Max Sharping, he's still pretty young. I believe he's like 24, maybe even 23 around that age. So I believe he should start a left guard. I believe he has the most talent on the team to play left guard. Over Lane Taylor. I mean, he's a very solidified left guard, but I mean, in terms of his age, he doesn't really fit the timeline. He's more there just to be a veteran presence, in my opinion. Center, yeah, I believe it's gonna be Justin Britt as well. There's really no other guy who could play center, in my opinion. Maybe they do something crazy during training camp. Maybe put Marcus Cannon at center or something like that. I don't know, but yeah, center is probably just looking like it's gonna be Justin Britt. Right guard, I do believe it ends up being Marcus Cannon, even though with the offensive line coach saying that. I believe it's just kind of something just to, I guess, bump up Titus Howard's confidence in a way. Like, hey, the job's not yours. You have to go in there and earn it or whatever, something like that. So I believe it is going to be Marcus Cannon at right guard with Titus Howard at right tackle. I believe Titus Howard is going to take a major jump this year. Last year, he was probably like a middle of the pack right tackle, like not yet top 15 or anything like that, but he wasn't bad in any sense. He locked down some pretty good pass rushers like TJ Watt. He had some good series against him. He had some good plays against Myles Garrett blocking him. So he's a pretty good right tackle. And I do believe he takes a major jump this year, maybe even becoming like a top 10, borderline top 10 right tackle. But yeah, it's going to be a very interesting thing to see with the offensive line. But yeah.
When you look at wide receiver and tight end, pretty dry thin there. You lost Will Fuller, who after DeAndre Hopkins became your best wide receiver. Will Fuller was on pace to having a career-setting year, and it finally looked like he was going to end up playing all 16 games in the season for the first time in his career. Then he finds a way to blow it. Then he ends up getting suspended for performance-enhancing drugs, PEDs, and that's pretty much the end of his season. He's now with the Miami Dolphins, signed with them in free agency. So you got Brandon Cooks there. You got Kiki Kuti, who kind of had a down year last year. So, like, what else is there going into training camp at wide receiver? Like, who's going to end up competing for the number 2 and 3 spot there?
Yeah, so just like all the other positions, Nick Cassera really addressed every position this offseason. We also signed Chris Conley previously on the Jaguars, so that was another get for us. He obviously still shows a lot of potential with his his traits, his physical traits, being like really tall and pretty fast. So I think that'll be a good get for us. We also did draft Nico Collins in the 3rd round, so that was also a good get for us. He was arguably a first-round caliber talent this year, so it was pretty nice that we were able to trade up and get him. And Kiki, I think he does make a leap this year. Mainly because ever since Bill Bryan was here, he was kind of in the doghouse in a sense that I think there's some beef between the two. But Kiki QT, he's obviously a very talented player. He does need to fix up his fumbling issues, but I think he shows a lot of promise at that position. I think he'll thrive this upcoming season. And we do have Randall Cobb. He was solid for us. But yeah, on that, that's for wide receivers. Tight end group would be pretty interesting too. We did draft Brevin Jordan from the University of Miami. A really solid get. Our receiving group, I guess you can say pretty like the definition of average. I would say like top 20-ish or something. Brandon Cooks is really nice too. I think one of the more underrated receivers in this league. But yeah, I think our starting tight end would be someone around like maybe Jordan Akins or Barrow Brown currently. But yeah, I think you have some nice young like talent in those positions.
Yeah, our wide receiver core is really fun. The whole wide receiver core is pretty much up for grabs at this point. The only solidified, I guess, receiver that's deserving of a starting spot is Brandon Cooks, and he's probably gonna be that wide receiver number 1, at least for week 1. But yeah, we did draft Nico Collins in the 3rd round, as Anis was saying. He has first round talent. Like if he were to play this past season, I believe he opted out because of COVID or something like that. But if he were to play, I do believe that he probably would have slipped maybe into the 2nd round, early 2nd round, maybe late 1st. I believe he's like in the 6'3", 6'4" range, somewhere around there. Pretty good weight. He's more of a physical receiver. He's not like a guy who's gonna I guess like a speedster or like a Brandon Cooks type of receiver. He's more of like an Andre Johnson in a sense. Like Andre Johnson, he was a very, very good Texans receiver, and they've play pretty similar, in my opinion. They both have decent route running, both have decent hands. I mean, obviously, Andre Johnson's way better because he's a Texas legend. But I mean, in terms of skill set, like they both have the same skill set. But then going on to the other guys, we have KTQT. I do believe he's a very solid receiver. He's coming to his contract year. So I believe he's going to have something to play for. He's going to be motivated. So he's going to go in there. I do believe he gets a start as slot receiver over Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb is, I think he's like 30 or 31, somewhere around there. So, I mean, it really doesn't make too much sense to start him. The only thing that would make sense is because of his contract. We're paying I believe it's like close to $8 or $9 million a year, which is a crazy overpay for him. So I believe KTQT starts at the slot. But, I mean, yeah, on the other guys, we also we signed undrafted free agent Marlon Williams. I haven't heard too much about him, but based on his college resume, I mean, he seems pretty good. I believe he had over 1,000 yards in multiple seasons. He's a pretty big guy. He's like a big slot receiver. He reminds me a little bit of like a DeAndre Hopkins in terms of his size, in terms of lining up in the slot at times. He can run that slant route really well. He can run that out route from the slot really well. But yeah, our tight end room as well. I believe it will be Jordan Akins starting, at least for week 1. But then coming into the middle of the season, I do believe it could be Brevin Jordan. He has all the talent. He has speed. He has size, willingness to block. And plus, he's much younger. Jordan Akins I think he's like a year 4 player, somewhere around there. To be a year 4 player, he's already going to be 30 years old. I think we drafted him when he was like 24 or 25, somewhere around there. But yeah, our wide receiver core is very fun. Very competitive to see all the new guys. Basically, everybody in the wide receiver room is new except for like 2 or 3 guys. But yeah, it's gonna be very interesting.
When you look at this defense, man, this defense hasn't been good in a while. You look at the loss of J.J. Watt there, that's definitely a big loss. I mean, that defense just looks absolutely depleted, really. So, I mean, who's going to end up replacing J.J. Watt on that defensive line? And how does the overall front 7 look when we look at the linebackers in the defensive line as a package? Are there any position battles there? Are there going to be some starters who are going to end up retaining their jobs, or what?
Yeah, so our defensive line, Nick Cassera, like I keep on saying, he actually signed a bunch of defensive guys at this offseason. Notoriously, our defense is really, really bad last offseason. Like one of the worst run defenses, like really bad, like pass defense. So obviously, you needed a huge overhaul. Obviously, you're not going to fix that in one offseason, but we did sign a bunch of 1-year guys on 1-year deals to kind of like prove themselves. So on our defensive line, we did get Shaq Lawson in a trade, trading Bernard McKinney to the Dolphins, getting Shaq Lawson in return. So that's going to be the main guy who you might want to look out for to replace J.J. Watt's role. Another great defensive end for us is Jacob Martin. It's very great for us. That defensive line still needs work, especially in that interior. We still have Ross Blacklock, who's going into year 2. He showed like one flash of like tackling Derrick Henry, but that was pretty much it. That interior defensive line does need work. We did sign Malik Collins and Jaleel Johnson, who are just solid guys. Nothing gonna like rock the boat or nothing. You also have like other guys like Jordan Jenkins, who we got from the Jets, and our linebackers. We probably signed like the most linebackers in the NFL. We got Christian Kirksey, who was previously on the Green Bay Packers. We signed Kevin Pierre-Louis. We got Jordan Jenkins, like I mentioned. We still have Whitney Merciless. Obviously, he's not very good anymore, but he's also there. I doubt he gets any run. There's just a bunch of linebackers on our team. I think our defense can be average, but it still needs going to see like how they'll all like work out with all the new guys, since like chemistry wise, it might take some time to build. So we'll just have to see about that.
I believe our defensive line is probably one of the strongest points for the defense. I mean, obviously we don't have like that pure number 1 guy other than Shaq Lawson. He's probably gonna be starting at left end or right end. He's gonna be that defensive end number 1 for us. My defensive end number 2, I could see it being Jonathan Grenard. He's the 2nd-year player out of, I believe it was the University of Florida. He's a very good player. He had double-digit sacks in his college years. But last year, I mean, he showed some flashes, nothing crazy. But I believe he comes into camp and he has like a bigger body. Like he's more of a linebacker. He has the speed of a linebacker and he plays kind of like a linebacker. But he's I don't know how to explain it, but he's like more of a defensive end at the same time. He can play both, but I mean, I see him starting at defensive end. But going into the defensive tackle spot, as Fuller was saying, we got Ross Blacklock. We drafted him in the second round last season. Very talented guy. Last year really didn't fit the scheme, but this year we're gonna be running a 4-3 Tampa 2. So I mean, he comes in, he's probably gonna be starting at that 3 tech role. He can get that interior presence in terms of run stopping, not as much as run stopping, but in terms of like I guess pass rushing, he's more of a pass rushing defensive tackle, and I believe that's where he's really gonna excel this season. And at defensive tackle number 2, we really don't have much of a run stuffer. I think we end up running 2-3 techs. It's gonna be Malik Collins with Ross Blacklock. It's gonna be kind of rare to see in the NFL, but I mean, we really don't have that other big guy, that heavy guy to stop the run or anything like that, like a Vince Wilfork or a DJ Reed or anything like that. So I believe we're gonna be running 2-3 techs with Grenard and Shaq Lawson on the outside, and going to the linebackers. Yeah, I believe we have like maybe over 20, maybe even 25 linebackers on the team, probably even more. I don't even know. We have like the most free agent linebacker signings in the whole NFL. Half of these linebackers that we have on their team right now, they're probably not even going to be on the team come week 1. A bunch of them are going to get cut. But I think the main guys, that's what I was saying, it's going to be KPL, Kevin Pierre-Louis, Christian Kirksey, Zach Cunningham. I believe there's like a top 5 or even the top 3. I think he won the tackle award for last season with over 100 tackles or something like that. So we have our pure middle linebacker number 1 with Christian Kirksey at middle linebacker number 2 with Kevin Pierre-Louis probably as that Sam linebacker. And the other linebacker, I mean, it's gonna be up for grabs. Like there's just too many guys, I guess, to call who's gonna be a starter right now. But based on paper, that's what I believe it's gonna be looking like right now.
Now, the last position we got to talk about the whole entire secondary, because this has been one of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest reason, why Houston's defense has not been great over the last couple of years. So at safety, free safety, you have Justin Reed, one of the better free safeties, probably the most underrated free safety in the league. I don't think he gets talked about enough because he plays for Houston. But aside from him, you don't really have that much there. So, like, what are some breakout candidates in training camp that could surprise a lot of people out there who could end up becoming really good corners for the Texans this year?
Yeah, our secondary was the definition of burnt toast. We had Vernon Hargraves, we had Philip Gaines, like absolute nobodies at this point. But I mean, this year we did sign Desmond King from the Titans, pretty nice slot corner, and we did sign Terrence Mitchell, who previously played for the Browns. He's solid corner. So obviously some decent upgrades. Obviously compared to what we were running with last season, it was obviously way better. And we do have Lonnie Johnson, who like recently transitioned from cornerback to safety. So obviously having a year under his belt probably do a lot of wonders for him. And so, yeah, I think he's probably a player to look out for. Justin Reed, his rookie season was arguably his best of his career. Hopefully he does do rebounds this year. I have a lot of faith in him. I think he can be our franchise guy one day. And yeah, I think our secondary will also be kind of decent next year too.
Yeah, our secondary room is very fun. We got returning guys like Bradley Roby, John Reed, who's he's a second year player this year. He's more of a slot corner, more of a smaller guy. I don't really see him being too much in the league, but I mean, he's a guy there. But as Fuller was saying, we got Desmond King from the Titans. I do believe he's gonna return to his All-Pro form. He's a very good player. As we've all seen, he can play pretty much all over the field. He can play safety, he can play outside corner, inside corner, slot. He can pretty much play it all. But I do believe we're gonna primarily play him in the slot to get the most out of him. And I believe that's probably gonna be our best corner on our team. He has pretty much all the skill sets, everything needed to be a slot corner. Our cornerback number 2 is probably going to be Terrence Mitchell. As Philly was saying, we signed him from Cleveland. He's a very good guy. He's more of a physical guy. He's probably gonna be covering that. I could see him covering maybe the number one wide receiver. Like if we're playing a team like Seattle, play Seattle this year, he's probably gonna be covering like the DK Metcalf type of guy, like the more bigger physical type of receiver. Like if we put Bradley Roby on a DK Metcalf is gonna body him in terms of physicality. But I mean, if we put Terrence Mitchell on him, sure. DK is bigger than him, but I mean, Terrence Mitchell could somewhat match up on him in terms of size, but DK is probably going to win that battle 9 times out of 10. But yeah, we have Lonnie Johnson. As Fuller was saying, I do believe he breaks out. He's kind of on the older side to be a third year player. I believe he's going to be like 25 or 26 this year. So I mean, he's still pretty young, but I mean, to be a third year player. But we also have Shaheem Carter. He's a undrafted free agent out of Alabama. I haven't really heard too much about him, but I mean, he could play corner, he could play safety, he could pretty much play all the positions on the secondary. He's a very good name to look out for. I do believe he's going to be a potential breakout candidate if he has a good training camp. And then going back to Justin Reed, as you were saying, he isn't talked about enough. In my opinion, he peaked in his rookie year. I believe he had like 3 or 4 interceptions, something like that. He had a touchdown, a few fumble recoveries, a few fumble. I don't know how to say, a few causes of fumble. I don't know if that's the right term, but yeah, he's a very good safety. I do believe, as Fuller was saying, he could become that franchise safety. He's also coming into his contract year, so I believe he's going to have his best year yet. But it's going to be very fun, very entertaining to go into training camp and see who's going to win out these battles.
Now, the last position I want to talk about before we get into your 5 players to watch for both of you guys, the running back position. I saved the best for last because I think your running back position is pretty interesting. Now, you have David Johnson there, who was pretty much your lead back. And he had in most times, aside from Deshaun Watson, was probably your most reliable playmaker on offense in terms of what he was able to do, catching the ball out of the backfield in the run game. But you guys did something really interesting. So when it looked like David Johnson was going to be your full lead back, you bring in Philip Lindsay. So who do you think ends up winning that starting RB1 job? Do you think that's going to be David Johnson? Will Philip Lindsay emerge? Remember, Philip Lindsay was really good his rookie season. So who ends up winning that?
Yeah, I think it's going to be more so of a running back by committee approach. I feel like David Johnson, they all bring their own skill set. We also signed Mark Ingram as well. And so Mark Ingram obviously brings that kind of blocking potential. He's probably not going to be our main rushing guy. I think that title goes to Philip Lindsay. I think he's going to get the most rushing yards on this team. Like, he's probably one of the most elusive guys that we have. David Johnson, he was good like the first game and then like the back end of the season. So I think he had his moments for sure, but there were a lot of times where he was just kind of outright bad. Like, he was running into blockers. We had really bad hands at some games, like really at crucial moments. So yeah, he does have some areas where he needs to improve. He did have a lot of pressure, obviously being the main piece of a DeAndre Hopkins trade. So I think having less pressure this season, a new coaching staff will do wonders for him. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be like a 3-headed monster type of thing. I think David Johnson's going to be our main receiving back. I think he's our best pass catcher out of the 3, but I think it'll be a very interesting rushing attack for sure.
So before I let you guys go, man, what are your 5 players to watch during training camp and preseason for the Houston Texans?
I would say I think our rookie quarterback, Davis Mills, is definitely a player to watch. I think if he doesn't get any much playing time, you can expect the Texans to draft a quarterback in next year's draft, and we're probably going to have a top pick. That's definitely a player to watch. I think obviously Shaq Lawson is definitely a player to watch for on the D line, a new addition on the team. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does. Philip Lindsay, another player to watch. Obviously, very exciting guy, dynamic guy. I think Justin Reed is probably another fun name to watch. And I would say Kevin Pierre-Louis is probably another name, I would say, for that linebacking group. So, yeah, that's what I would say.
All right, I appreciate you guys for coming on. One more time, tell the people where they can find you at and what you have coming forward over the next couple of months on the channel?
Yeah, so obviously we have our own YouTube channel, Clutch City Entertainment. And we post Texans, Rockets, Astros content, anything Houston sports. So definitely go check us out. We have a lot of fun ideas coming up, like player reviews, season reviews, things like that. So yeah, we have a lot of fun new content coming up. You can follow us on Twitter or Instagram at Clutch City Entertainment. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
And I appreciate you guys for coming on, man. And for those of you guys who are watching, make sure that you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, and also subscribe to these guys as well. I will have their YouTube channel linked down in the pinned comment section down below. And thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you.